Here we go.
Hey, ringers, welcome to the video
Patreon
podcast.
peeps. Let me take my keys off my thing
Oh,
there.
we,
or else
we, we can't have the jangly janglies all episode.
Jingle. Yeah, none of that.
It's like every time you get excited, you just hear your keys jingling. That's awesome.
Do you think anybody's ever going to make deep fakes of us?
Deep what?
Deep fake videos?
What's a deep fake video?
Where have you been?
Right here. What is that? I genuinely don't know what you're talking about.
Essentially, it's a new technology that people are using to create videos where it will like analyze the facial movements and speech patterns of somebody and then literally recreate a brand new fake video of that person talking that they never said things.
Oh. Is that I saw one with Will Smith and Cardi B where they it was Cardi B, everything's Cardi B except for the face and it's Will Smith, but it's Cardi B's voice and it's Will Smith very much talking along as if he's saying all those things.
Yeah, similar to that. There's ones that are like really big. Like there's one of Mark Zuckerberg that just popped up, like saying all these things. But like this was like a piece of art. So like it was made and people knew that it was a deep fake, but there's other ones where like real crazy things are happening. But like it's like if you put up videos and enough content of yourself, anybody could see enough of your, like Joe Rogan talks about it all the time. He's like, I put so much stuff out there that like I'm just gonna embrace it and whatever happens. It's crazy.
Yep.
Anyway.
Wow.
So,
look at you teaching me stuff this morning. Yeah.
I read the news.
I'm totally not. I've never heard of that. That's really cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear about that. Okay, so we are it's another rainy day here in Pennsylvania, you guys.
But we need the rain. The flowers need the rain. Our garden out back needs the rain. We need the rain. So it's not all bad.
No, it's not bad, but it's another day of recording when it's rainy.
Womp womp womp.
Womp womp. No, I think it sets like a nice cozy, like I made my tea. Are you drinking anything? No, you said you left your water bottle in the car.
I had a cup of coffee already this morning. I'm going to make another cup after this episode, but yeah, I'm okay with it.
Fun fact, ringers, I don't drink coffee.
Rachel doesn't drink coffee either. No, that's true. A single cup.
I feel like it's a more rare thing for those that don't drink coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I love it though, because I feel like I don't have that craving and I don't need it. So I just be happy. I just can't.
This is going to be a good episode because I feel like it's not necessarily something that we typically really jump into or talk a lot about.
That's true.
But it's such a necessity. So I think we should hop right in. Yeah.
Let's record a podcast.
Yeah. So can I do my countdown and yell we're live?
Yeah. What number are you counting down from?
10. No, I'm just kidding. 5.
That seems practical. I'm just kidding. 17.
And 99, 98. Oh God. All right. Let's just 99 bottles. Okay, ready? 5, 4, 3. Here we are, podcast peeps.
Podcast peeps, episode 69. Dan, what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about spreading the love for our lovely Earth and planet and how to take care of it. So we're going to do talk about some sustainable wedding ideas to make your day a little more eco-friendly. I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Right, because we know that one person cannot solve the problem of what's going on in our world, but we do know that many, many small decisions do add up to make pretty big impacts. So while you've got kind of enough on your plate already with planning a wedding, we tasked ourselves to coming up with 10 ideas that maybe you can implement even just one of them to make to just do your little part. Maybe you can implement all 10. Maybe you're doing that and more. And honestly, we'd love to hear about it. If you're in the Patreon group, definitely give us a shout out as to what you're doing to give Mother Nature some love and goodness as you plan your wedding and as you embark on your journey.
Yeah, we're gonna go over a ton of stuff today. Everything from
Yes.
like little itty bitty things, like straws. Maybe we can do not use plastic straws to big things like donating flowers and whatever. So we're gonna hop right in. Danielle, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Dan, I would love for you to take this one away. Go for it.
Uh, okay. I was totally expecting you to not throw that at me, but that's okay. All right. So first thing,
Surprise!
number one, renting versus buying. And of course, we're talking about lots of different things other than just like the wedding dress and tux, right? Like you can rent or buy a wedding dress. You can rent or buy a tux. Everybody kind of understands that. But you can also reduce a bunch of waste by by renting things like your linens, your decor, your flatware, and especially if you're having like an outdoor wedding, thinking about things like it would be really easy to just get a whole bunch of disposable plates and forks and knives and all that stuff if you're having a backyard wedding. But going that little extra step to, not do plastic silverware, forks, that kind of thing. What else, Danielle?
Yeah. Well, so I hear sometimes with my couples when they're looking at different rental options, they start looking online and going, well, geez, we can buy a tablecloth linen for almost the same rate versus renting it.
Yep.
And that's maybe true. But here's what you don't see is all of the care and steaming and washing and all the stuff that goes into that linen. If you were to buy your linens online, yes, you'll then own the linens, but you also have to get them ready and get them, steamed and pressed and all that stuff so that they can go on a table. And then after the wedding, you now have all of these linens. And I know that there's some options out there where you can resell your stuff following your wedding, but most times those things, it's a little bit more on the rare side, I would say, a little bit more uncommon that you're actually able to sell all the things. So then you're left with all this stuff. And more often than not, it turns into waste that just ends up in the landfill. So when you are renting things, like Dan said, I do a lot with backyard weddings. It is not that expensive to rent forks, knives, dishes, linens, all of those things. And this way you are giving your guests a beautiful experience with this nice flatware and china and all that, as opposed to disposable items. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but something to think about. And you get to, eliminate a little bit of waste.
So if you rent, eliminate waste. If you rent your flatware, your forks, knives, all that kind of stuff, does the service include like cleaning those up, like taking those things away and then taking them away to wash them, or do you have to wash them before you like give them back? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and that's a good question, and I think it's one that people don't realize. So when you do rent things, most rental companies require that those like dishes are scraped and rinsed before returning, and silverware is rinsed before returning as well. It's so that it doesn't sit there for a day with all of this food caked onto it, right? Think of like when you have dinner and you accidentally leave dishes in your sink. I never do that. But that food gets caked on, right? So if it's everything's rinsed and goes back, that's better. Some do require that they're cleaned. Usually the task should fall to the caterer. Mm-hmm. But if your caterer is saying they can't do that, there's people you can hire to take care of that for you. But
yeah. I mean, think about it. Every time you buy something, the packaging that it comes in, right? So just think about like, being able to reuse the linens from the caterer or the rental agency is one thing. But if you have to buy 20 linens and they come in, all these plastic sticky foldable bags or whatever, then you've got to also get rid of those. And then you've got to, or maybe you keep them and you got to repackage them or whatever. It's just a whole bunch of other stuff that's unnecessary, right?
Right. 100%. So,
Okay.
On to number 2.
So kind of in the same idea, right?
Exactly. It's about choosing secondhand attire.
Yep.
Now, we used to have a sponsor on this episode called Still White, stillwhite.com. They are a company that you can go on and resell your wedding dress. For those of you that have purchased a wedding dress, changed your mind, didn't like it, there's a lot of new, gently used, like new dresses on there that you can pick from. A, it's a great way to save money, and B, you're helping with this eco-friendly, sustainable side of things because you're not going out and buying another dress. Same goes for bridesmaids. There is Rent the Runway is a great option.
Super cool.
Or maybe ask your lady team if they already own something that they'd like to wear.
Yeah. Have you heard of Show Me Your Muumuu?
I haven't. What is that?
That's another. I think I can't remember if it's rentals as well. But you should check it out. I think that there's rentals and purchasing on Show Me Your Muumuu. One of my past brides just got stuff from them, and it's really cool. They had some really unique, really interesting bridesmaids dresses, and I thought it was pretty cool. So that's another one. How about that? Me showing you something again today. Huh.
Wow.
Show me your
Dan taught
muumuu.
me something earlier, guys. It was very interesting. If you're one of the Patreons, you can check it out in the video. Dan, what about for menswear?
Yep.
Obviously, I feel like that's more common to rent for our gentlemen, right?
Yeah. Side note, a little shout out to Catherine and Drew, who are listeners of this podcast, who told me about Show Me Your Muumuu. Thank you. I just photographed their wedding last month. It was awesome. But yeah, for guys, there's a couple of different ones, right? There's black tux. There's Menguin, which is Mengiun. There's Generation Tux. And of course, there's always good old Men's Warehouse.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably a lot more. Those are sort of like the big players in it all, with different options depending on what you'd like to do and which direction you'd like to go. But it's interesting that we've talked about this before. It's interesting that it's more common for the men to rent their outfit when it's so much more likely that they will rewear what it is they're wearing as either a groomsman or groom in the wedding versus the bride. Like, where else am I ever going to wear a white ball gown? Except on the wedding day.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I always think that complete exact thing. Like I feel like every bride always, expects that or says that I want you to buy a dress you're going to be able to rewear. But like I just feel like it doesn't happen. Like it very rarely happens. Rachel was a bridesmaid or maid of honor or something in several weddings a couple years ago, and like that was said to her both times. And I have never seen her rewear one of those wedding dresses, bridesmaids dresses, because they're just not. It's a different kind of dress, I feel like.
It is.
But with guys, I feel like it makes so much sense to just buy.
Right. And like a sharp looking suit. Think about where you can go with that.
All the time.
And I think it takes a lot for somebody to be like, dude, did you wear that suit before?
Yes. Every time.
Every time I have a special event. Yes. Yes, I wear the suit.
Yes, I do. Like I'd be curious to see what the difference would be, like how much upkeep and stuff there is on a suit that's rented that has to come back from a sweaty groomsman that has a whole bunch of ridiculous, alcohol smelling things on him. Like what kind of chemicals they have to use to clean the suit, what kind of, like a lot of dry cleaners used to use harsh chemicals, but now you'll see a lot of dry cleaners will say, using organic chemicals or whatever, or organic compounds to clean things. But how much, like what do those like cleaning factories look like behind Men's Warehouse or any of these places that have to clean all these tuxes and shine the shoes again and, have these big washing machines or whatever versus, if you're just one guy who like comes back, takes care of his suit because it's his own suit. There's definitely parts of both. Like, Black Tux is a huge, really amazing company that a lot of my grooms right now are using. And one of the things I really like about it is that you can rent the tux, and if you like it, you can pay the difference and keep it, which is awesome.
Oh, that's cool. Yep.
And they also just do a lot of real great work with their grooms to make sure that their suits fit really well and that they have good customer service is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, lots to think about there. Interesting. Interesting.
And none of these are sponsors currently of this episode. No. We're genuinely just mentioning these to give you guys some good tips. And
although Black Tux, if you want to hook us up or rent the runway, just saying, somebody's got to pay their mortgage.
Or, buy groceries.
Or buy groceries. Please.
I'm so hungry.
I'm so hungry. Oh, goodness.
Okay,
right.
So
what else we got?
The next one I want to talk about is our third tip is about donating your flowers. So I am one of the few people left around once the wedding day is over and everything is getting cleaned up. And the amount of waste there is at that moment is a lot. we've talked about how much cake gets thrown away, but there's so many flowers. And in some cases, the vessels that your centerpieces come in are rentals, which means those need to be returned back to the florist or rental company wherever they came from. Just the flowers themselves, guests can take. Now, there's other times where, maybe you're DIYing your flowers. Oh, God, don't DIY your flowers. But, maybe you've opted to purchase the vessels so that guests can take them home. And that's a way to sort of spread that love a little bit more. If Aunt Sally wants to take home, the beautiful centerpiece from the table and it's going to live in her, foyer for some time after your wedding, that's a beautiful thing. But if that can't happen, all of those flowers are just left there at the end of the night. And I'm telling you guys, they get scooped up and thrown into a big garbage bag. And it is heartbreaking. And just the reality is it needs to get cleaned up. It needs to get out of there. It can't be reused the next day for another event or wedding. So there's options. There are some ways that you can go about it. Some floral companies will offer this as a service. I have had couples who opt to just do this themselves or designate a person, but you can donate these flowers to hospitals, to nursing homes. You can do... Oh, I totally had a brain fart. What I wanted to say was that you can also, if you're still going back to the thing of like, okay, but we're renting our vessels, what do we do with these flowers? I'm telling you, the dollar store has a bunch of very cheap vases. At the end of the night, just scoop all those flowers up, stick them in there, and then distribute them where they need to go from there.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody out there has ever had parents in or grandparents in nursing homes and things like that. It can be like a really great thing for a lot of older people. Like my Grammy liked it because she was around her, some ladies and some friends she got to hang out with, rather than kind of like being by herself after my grandpa passed. But it was a true gift, and to see flowers show up and like just these little, very simple, gestures to really brighten a lot of these people's days. Like think about it. They are, even though no matter how homely they try to make it, a lot of those places can still feel a little bit corporate and a little bit, like
sterile.
Yeah, sterile, right? So like flowers and things, like the joy that you would see, like these women or older men just like holding a flower. They'd be sitting, they'd have them by the window and they'd just be sitting there looking at them and rolling their little chairs past them and picking them out and smelling them and stuff. It's just like give them something to do. And, that's probably one of the easier things I'd say, just to like find a way to do that. If there's one thing, that could really help, maybe a double whammy, it's brightening someone's day and also, helping save our planet a little bit. There's just a little less waste, right?
Extend the life of those flowers a little bit more. Let them do a little more good in this world. They provided a beautiful environment for your wedding day. Let them provide a beautiful bit of joy for somebody else too. And there's, you can do non-floral centerpieces too. There are beautiful plants like succulents or potted plants that could really make cool centerpieces, and then they could be taken home and planted or potted or whatever it is. Or cactuses. There's so many different options. Don't feel like you have to stick to this one thing, because that's what everybody does and that's what you see on Pinterest. There are a ton of really cool options out there that can help extend the life of that plant a little bit further.
Yeah. Let's I want to talk about this next one. Is that okay?
By all means.
Oh,
you
awesome.
You host this podcast too, Dan. Go for it.
Thanks for throwing me a bone, Danielle. Number 4, which is encouraging monetary or experiential gifts rather than tangible products, right? So like one of the things that I think about all the time is – so all right, this is going to be kind of like a double whammy here. I'm thinking about two things. One, I'm thinking about like gifts that people give you, and I'm thinking about the favors that you give to other people, right? Do we have a favors section on here? No, we're not talking about favors. So I'm thinking about those two things. So number one, I always think about like every, place setting that I see. Are we talking about favors later?
We're definitely talking about favors, but yeah.
I do. I see it. Number 7. Okay. That's right. I'll come back to those then. So let's talk about number 4. So rather than, all these major gifts where like you get, plates and dishes and a bread maker and all these things that come in all of these boxes and everything, like, can you opt for something like a a honeymoon registry, right? So we in episode 67 we went over wedding registries, a wedding registry 101. So there's lots of different options than just the standard stuff that's going to sit around your home, and then a couple years later you're going to end up getting rid of it. You think you need this thing now, except for marshmallow shooters. Somebody bought us a marshmallow shooter and we put it on our registry. It was amazing. Somebody bought it for us and we still have it 5 years later. It's amazing. But there's a lot more registries focusing on the experiential or just like cash gifts that you can use towards whatever you want versus just like collecting stuff and then end up throwing it away later. And when you collect stuff, I mean, there's not just the stuff that you have, but there's the packaging of it. There's the, all that stuff behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. And it's hard because who admittedly doesn't like receiving gifts, right?
Yeah.
That's a fun thing, but think long-term with it and think,
right.
What am I really going to do with this? We do talk a lot about it in the wedding registry episode. If you haven't listened to that yet, it is a great episode.
Yeah.
So we give you a lot of ideas there, but I like this a lot. If you are pretty settled into your world and your home, I think it's a great way to, eliminate that waste.
You know what would be awesome?
Or eliminating waste.
As now as I'm having kiddos and thinking about futures and all that kind of stuff, I keep thinking about like, one, I would never do our wedding a different way. But two, I'd often think like, what if we took that money that we got as gifts or whatever and just put it in like retirement or put it in, something like put it in a trip that we planned for when we're 50 or something like that, right? Because one of the studies I was reading recently is how a lot of people past the age of 50 say that like those last like 30, 40, 50 years of their life go by really quick because they have less to look forward to, right? Like if you think about it, the stuff earlier in their lives, going to college, buying a house, getting married, having kids, there's all this stuff that you're constantly looking forward to. And it's really amazing, right? But as you get older, there's like people feel like they have less to look forward to. And one of the things that they said is like, as you get older as a couple, to constantly do things, go on trips, do weekends away, all those things, right? You're not just, sitting on your couch watching TV, letting the days fly by. So maybe that's like a really great thing to say, you know what? $10,000. We're going to take $10,000 from our wedding or $5,000 or $1,000 and we're going to put it in an envelope or we're going to open a savings account and just let that money compound. And when we're 50, that is going to be our getaway,
That's
or something.
Awesome.
Just something.
This is a little bit off topic, but I heard, I think in a podcast, they were talking about it, about the fact that going on vacation is great, but it's often the anticipation of going on vacation that raises people's excitement levels and cortisol levels and all of those things more than the actual vacation itself. And I just thought that was interesting. So I'm just going to start planning a whole lot of vacations that I'm not actually going on. I just can't tell myself I'm not actually going on it. That feels like a good life hack, doesn't it?
Yeah, heck yeah.
What can go wrong? Okay, on to tip number 5. I want you guys to opt for sustainable paper products or digital products. So these are things like your invites, maybe sending digital invitations or maybe just allowing your guests to RSVP online. Dan, you and I are going to a wedding coming up, although by the time this episode airs, it'll be in the past. But you received a digital RSVP, right, for Gina and Urker's wedding? Yep. How easy was that? You went online? Awesome. Well, maybe Rachel did. Did Rachel do it?
Wonder if they got that idea from us. Because I know they're listeners of this podcast.
I know. Gina's amazing. She's always listening to this podcast. But that's one way to do it. And I don't know about you, but it was super easy. I got the invite in the mail. I went online to their website, hit yes. I think it asked us what song we would dance to if we played it. Boom, done. I didn't have to mail anything back. I didn't have to walk all the way down my steps, out my front door, to my little mailbox. Guys. But yeah, that's one way to do it. There's also, I've seen place cards, like, those little cards that have Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Moyer, table 2 on it that, there's a lot of paper waste with that, right? But I've seen them where those can be planted and then turned into flowers.
That is such an amazing thing, right? Like, you literally get this invitation in the mail and there's seeds woven right into the paper and you can literally just take that piece of paper and shove it right in the ground and flowers will come up or a little tree or whatever. It's so beautiful. Love that.
Even something as simple as just recycled paper.
Yep.
That's just a
Ta-da.
little thing. And none of your guests are going to receive it and be like, oh, gross. Like, oh, what is
There
this?
might be
like,
some. There might be
right.
some, to be honest.
And all of these things that we're doing and that we're talking about, these aren't things to like go on social media and brag about. And these aren't things that you can stand up at your wedding and be like, this wedding is all blah, blah, blah. Like it's not about that. It's just about doing your little part to like feel good on the inside, to fill your little eco-friendly love tank inside. Do you know what I'm saying?
Love the love tank. Yep.
Love the love tank.
Ooh. Okay. This is, I feel like this is one that's, I would hope would hit home with a lot of people after that turtle video. And if you haven't seen it, don't Google it. Maybe you should. Anyway.
Don't press this button.
Yeah. So, all right. Next one is number 6. Ask your bartenders not to use straws, right? Or have the venue replace them with paper straws, right? Like paper straws
or
are making.
You can buy paper straws.
Yeah, or you can buy paper straws, and give them to the bartenders. Good to go. But, super simple, right? Maybe unless a guest specifically asks for a straw, they give them glasses, right? Or they give
what
them.
happens? Most weddings you go to, or I think you have to see this too. People order a drink, they get their drink, and there's that little black or whatever straw that's stuck in there.
Right?
I don't know about you, but I don't really use it.
Yeah.
It's something I like always put over to the side, and I drink and try not to poke myself in the eye as I drink it.
Right.
So really, I don't need it in most cases, and if it's automatically being put in, that's something you can ask your bartenders. Hey, do you guys mind not automatically putting that in? If a guest wants one, go for it. But just that little bit, guys, we've all seen and heard how bad these little suckers are.
Oh, they're terrible. They are terrible. I mean, you've also heard about that, like 2-mile wide floating mass of plastic in the ocean, right? There's like all kinds of stuff, right? Like there's lots of, who was it? Did Starbucks just bring back paper straws? And somebody just committed to bringing back, like they got rid of all their plastic straws and they're only doing paper straws now. Like one of the big fast food companies, I think. Anyway,
that's awesome.
Yeah, they suck,
But like that's a really good point. So you just mentioned this like 2-mile wide thing of plastic. I don't know specifically what thing you're talking about, but I'm the type of person where I'm admittedly very sensitive to stuff, and if I go down too much of a rabbit hole, I start getting so worked up and so bothered by it all that I do the wrong thing, and I just go, I can't look at this anymore. I can't take it, and I sort of tone it out. And if it's like out of sight, out of mind. But I don't think that's the right approach. I think I need to be better at saying, okay, I have this information. Yeah, that breaks my heart. It makes me really sad for what's happening in our world. I need to then do what I can to make little changes in my own world and be less wasteful. I'm a purger, so I'm constantly throwing stuff away. But going forward, I need to be more mindful of what I'm actually purchasing. Do I really need this thing? How is this going to have an impact long-term down the road? Yep. So I'm glad we're doing this episode. This is a good thinker.
Me too. I definitely think that, the whole minimalism movement, plays into this, but also, you said you're a purger, and we're, Marie Kondoing our house big time, as we prepare for these babies. And so we had a yard sale and we tried to get rid of them that way. And then we donated a bunch of stuff, but there's some stuff that you just can't not throw away. But it's like whenever I throw something away that I'm like, this kills me, I just say, okay, I'm throwing this away because I'm not going to replace it. I'm never buying something like this ever again. I'm not buying 2 of these things. I'm doing this so I can become a better consumer and become more aware of what I really need, Right.
Honestly, I really think the more I'm a big fan of the Minimalist podcast, and that's a podcast that speaks well to me in the sense that it gives me the right mindset when I go to purchase something. Dan, you and I have talked about this not while we've been recording a podcast, of the things that we see and we're like, oh, I really want that pair of headphones, and oh, I really want that whatever thing. And you kind of like, you put it in your cart and you kind of like, oh, I'm so going to buy it. I shouldn't buy it. I'm still going to buy it. Do I really need this? I do have other headphones that work mostly fine when I charge them.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. The rock headphones. Oh,
yeah.
He's
right.
So
but
cool.
Yeah, he's cool. And that's what advertising is meant to do. It's meant to get us to purchase, to get us to drive the this aspect of consumerism forward. So really, it's a battle to say, nope, I appreciate that thing and I like that thing, but I'm not going to buy that thing. And usually you forget about it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless you're you. Then you're still thinking about the Rox headphones.
Or my daughter's birthday's coming up this weekend, and we have like a little birthday party, and of course we're doing like little gift bags and that kind of stuff, which is super cute. And I was like, we were at Walmart or something yesterday, like just buying stuff to put in this, like little candies and whatever. And there was a confetti shooter. It was literally like a little gun thing that like you pushed a button and like shot out like a little thing of confetti. No pyrotechnics, but like spring loaded or something. And I like looked at Rachel and I was like, I'm buying this. It was like $2.50 and then like $1.50 for these like other canisters. And I just like got it and I was like, this is awesome. And I looked at it and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to spend $4 on this thing, and then just like it literally creates waste in the park where we're going to. Like, it creates paper waste that we're, and I was like, I'm not buying this. So I put it back. And like, it was one of those like little like proud moments where I was like, because it's so easy to just like get down in that rabbit hole of like, yeah, I need this thing and I need this thing. And before you know it, you're like $500 deep on Amazon.
Right.
But yeah, just trying to be aware of those little things. Right.
Right. Exactly. Good conversation. Dan, this next one feels like it would speak to your heart. By all means, go for it.
Number 7 is skip the single-use disposable favors, right? I was going to touch on this before, but so I'm going to go probably off script on this one. Oh no,
Dan, you go for it.
No. So obviously
Honey,
you
speak your truth.
Mm-hmm. So one of the major things is like every time I go to a wedding, right? Sometimes there'll be like a little favor sitting on the table. And that favor is packaged in a cute little box, or if it's a cookie, it's in like a little plastic bag. And of course we're like kind of really splitting hairs here, but if you did something that was a gift to a charity, say, on behalf of, all the people at the wedding, right? So you give this large sum of money in the guest's name, rather than putting these little things on the table that are going to get thrown out or whatever. But I can't help but every time I see those cookies or little trinkets that are on the table, or what is it? What are those fancy almonds that people for some reason always get?
Oh gosh, I know what you're talking. It's those little almonds that are covered in
like rock hard
candy. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's
I want to say almond joy, but that's a candy bar, right?
No, yeah. Anyway, like every time I see those like little packages, I can't help but think about those plastic bags that they're in, or like these little cute pouch boxes, or and that box is literally just going to get thrown out. So I guess donate to charity is number 1, right?
Jordan almonds. I had a Google.
Jordan, yeah.
There's people that are listening that are like screaming,
Jordan almonds!
Guys, we heard you.
So I feel like I'm just rambling here, but let me get back on track and say, instead of, the single-use disposable favor, donate money to charity in the name of your wedding guests, right? That's number 1.
And it's specifically, I think it's so easy to... And when you get engaged, Facebook and Instagram, they automatically start targeting you with all of the ads for all of the things that make you feel like, well, gosh, if we don't have, personalized napkins with our name on it, is it really a wedding? And you can go down this rabbit hole of finding a really cute favor that has your names and wedding date etched into it or engraved into it. But your guests love you. No doubt about it. They love you. But are they really going to long-term use a thing that has your names and dates into it? Now, obviously, if it's your parents, maybe. That feels, you're that important to them. But maybe your extended cousins, coworkers, aunts, uncles, friends, they're going to appreciate the thing. But I'm willing to argue that you either have a ton of stuff from weddings you've attended with people's names and dates on them that you really haven't done too much with, or you don't because you've thrown it away. And if you want to do it, go for it. Don't let us poo-poo on your plans. But I challenge you to find something that they can use long-term. And one of those things, well, this isn't long-term, but one of those things is opting for something edible, right? Something they can eat. Like Dan said, it's often wrapped in some sort of plastic whatever. And I think that's more to keep it safe from like germs as everybody's handling it and it's getting put out on the things.
Yep.
I get that. And to a certain extent, I guess there's ways around that as well.
Yep. Yeah.
But guys,
Put them in paper
doesn't love a
bags.
snack? Who doesn't love a snack?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Love a snack. We did, we did these chocolate covered pretzels for our wedding and we put them in these plastic bags. But looking back on it,
though, right?
Oh yeah, we made them.
I love that.
We didn't go out and buy them. We made them. But so we put them all these little plastic bags, but going back, it's like, I feel like the eco-friendly, sustainable movement wasn't as much in my mind or much of a thought, 5 years ago. But now going back, it's like you could easily find, brown paper bags to put them, in.
Like
There's
wax paper, right?
Wax paper, yeah, whatever. So yeah, opting for something edible, huge, easy thing to do. And I'm sure that there's also companies that do these kind of things where if you look up eco-friendly wedding favors, there's got to be somebody.
Yeah. But do your research, because that also could be, the internet. It's not everything you read on the internet is true.
Right.
Flash alert.
What was the other thing I was going to say about edible? That's okay. I can't think of it. All right.
Cool.
Anyway,
another
what else
option too, on the favor front, we talked about it a little bit before, is maybe your centerpieces double as favors.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe you can work something in that where part of the centerpiece comes apart or it that becomes incorporated. So then you've got like a double purpose and much appreciated. So,
yep.
All right, on to the next thing. And this kind of goes a little bit into what we were talking about in terms of donating to charities. But number 8, our tip would be to work with vendors who give back to the environment. We all, as vendors in this industry, have things that we are passionate about and things that we focus our charitable energies on. For some of us, that means donating money. For some of us, that means donating time. Whatever it is that might be. I am a big fan of companies like Charity Water. That's a company that I tend to donate money to when I'm able to. And then there's things locally that I try and get involved with when I can, because for me, I'm in my 30s and planning a wedding. So I'm in a financial state where I am able to give more of my time than my money at this point. But
right.
I've still found that to be really helpful. I mean, we've done stuff where we've just gone and put together these care kits for families of babies that were born prematurely, so preemie babies, or we put all these things together and we knocked it out and it was a good time. We had fun laughing together and we did a good thing. So, I mean, not to say is you should work with us because of that, but that's another way you can give back.
Yep. Yeah, I donate a lot of time for the Red Cross. Maybe not a lot of time, but I work with them a couple times a year to kind of spread their mission, right? And they kind of call me up and they'll say, hey, we've got this event or this thing just happened, and I'll go there and just volunteer and help kind of spread their mission. But I also package these. It's right before Thanksgiving usually, and they'll pack like a turkey in a box with a bunch of like rice and canned corn and all these different things, and then they're distributed out to families who are in need. Obviously Danielle and I aren't saying that to, like, I don't advertise that stuff on my website, right? Like it's not about me, but there are people who do good. So maybe, actually off topic slightly, ask your wedding professionals in your meeting with them, if they support any charities or if they give back anyway. And you'll find out real quickly, what kind of people somebody is if by their, reaction to that. And that's not to say, like, obviously I'm in a crazy time in my life where I'm about to have 3 kids and whatever. And there's less time to be able to volunteer. But, I think that'd be a good thing to know about somebody, what they do,
Right. And it's another way to find some commonalities.
Yep.
Maybe you are passionate about the same thing. My mom has an autoimmune disease that's super rare. Anytime I hear that disease mentioned any place else, I'm like, oh, I'm familiar with that. Like, I want to know your experience with that more. So it's about finding those little things. And ways that you can give back and donate your resources where you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 9.
Numero 9. So we're going to be saying you should find ways to repurpose your decor either throughout the day or after the wedding. And some of this goes back to, like we talked about, donating your flowers, right? But finding ways to repurpose your decor. Ways I've seen is when the bridesmaids' bouquets become centerpieces, either on a sweetheart table, head table, throughout the space. Maybe they add some cool flowers to the cake table, whatever it is. Usually once photos are done after the ceremony, those bridesmaids don't need their bouquets anymore. And they're just going to end up on a table or a chair anyway. They might as well become more useful. And honestly, it comes down to buying, if your florist doesn't provide it, those dollar store cylindrical, they're about 6 to 8 inches high, probably 4 to 5 inches around in diameter. They fit bridesmaids bouquets or any type of bouquets really nicely. And you can't really tell the difference. I've even done it where I haven't put them in a bouquet. We just laid them crisscross applesauce, one across the other with their stems, and it looks gorgeous. I'm in a kid's state of mind today, but yeah. What else have you seen, Dan?
I mean, I just going back to that. Some people, my brain automatically goes to, what if you only have 5 bridesmaids and 10 tables? It's like, well, you just put the vase in the middle of 5 of the tables, spread them out nicely, and then on the alternate ones, do a second,
a different design.
Table centerpiece thing where maybe it's like, a small, low, couple of candles, and maybe you're a reader and you put like a little stack of cute like old books out there with some candles around it and a mirror, and then maybe there's like a little lantern next to it or something, and like just a little bit of greenery that goes around it. It'd be really nice. Love it.
Guys, listen to that. Dan just designed a wedding.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I am an artsy-fartsy person. I went to art school.
I agree more on the second than the first, but
yeah. You are a fartsy person. Oh, goodness.
One of the things
you're a pretty good tutor as well.
That's very true. One of the things, and we just did this at this past wedding we did this weekend, and it wasn't necessarily planned, but once I saw it, it was just a no-brainer. The couple got married in the woods. The amount of bug bites I have, you guys, is ridiculous. But they got, no matter how much bug spray I sprayed on myself, but they got married in the woods, and they had this beautiful white birch arch at their altar space. And the florist attached some gorgeous flowers to it. It was super asymmetrical, but super pretty. And I talked to my team, and I was looking at the back of it and how it was constructed. And I was like, guys, this thing can come down as soon as that ceremony's over, and we're going to put it at the couple's head table. So the way we structured their head table was that it was this nice, beautiful, long table. There was about 23 or so people sitting at it, but directly across from the couple, they had a direct view to the dance floor, but there was nobody sitting directly across from them. So there was this open gap on the floor where there's no chairs. So we took this gorgeous flower thing that was attached to the arch at their ceremony. Once the ceremony was over, we detached it, took it over to the reception site, and just laid it on the ground. I actually toppled a lot of the bouquets on top of it to fill it out. And suddenly there was this like very expensive looking floral piece at the base of their head table, and it looked gorgeous. It looked gorgeous in photos, and it was something they did not have to pay for. It was something that otherwise would have just been waste, and it worked out really well.
Love it. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
I didn't initially plan for that because the florist wasn't sure how she was going to attach it, and sometimes the way it's attached, it can't come down easily, and it just ends up breaking. But if that's something you can do, that's something you can talk with your florist about and see what you can do.
Cool. Very cool.
It was also something, we had a bunch of things going down the aisle. We ended up scooping those all up, and we placed them throughout the space. We placed some on the cake table. There was a fireplace mantle where we were at, so we stuck them up there, added some candles. I'm telling you, I would very much doubt that anybody realized that those flowers were the same flowers from the ceremony that came over.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting. I love that you have the mind for that, though, to be able to just be like, all right, well, we're going to do this in the middle of like everything else that you're doing. To just be like, oh, let's do this. Let's put this here. Very cool. Love that. All right. Numero 10.
Dun, da, da, da.
Oh, man. We are flying through this.
Yeah.
Okay. This one, pretty simple. Ask your venue /caterer /bartenders if they recycle, or ask them to recycle if they don't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this might require no additional effort on your part, and it's a way that you can really make a big impact because, as we've talked about many, many times in this episode and past episodes, there's a ton of waste that comes from weddings. And imagine if that maybe the food can be composted. compost dead. I quit. But there's a bunch of ways around it. On the other side, if they're like, well, in order to do that, we need X, Y, and Z. It may require you get some bins to place around that are just specifically designated for recycling. But for the most part, it can be done.
Yeah. Hey, if you're out there and you're thinking about this and you're like, I am super passionate about, saving the planet, about our environment, about, just ways to, cut waste, whatever that is. And you're just thinking like, hey, they should be doing these things, or you have some ideas. We would love to hear them. Danielle and I are regular people. We're not just preaching this stuff and then not doing it, right? Like we're both still working professionals, and we want to hear from people. So tell us what you're doing, what you are trying to do, and some of the projects that you have going on. We'd love to hear from you.
Definitely. Boom.
I don't know what that was.